Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to call the November 19th, 2025 meeting of the Auburn School Committee to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll start down here on my right with introductions.
Dan Poitron, Ward 5.
Corin McGuigan, Ward 1.
Pamela Albert at large.
Sue Doris, Superintendent.
Pat Gaudia, Ward 3.
Adam Platt, City Council Representative.
Calvin Vincent, Student Representative.
Scott Anier, Assistant Superintendent.
Amanda Kuchar, Business Manager.
And Quinn and Pam and Jay could not be here this evening. Apologies to everyone who might be watching at home for our delay getting started tonight. We had a few minor technical difficulties. I'm going to start with the approval of tonight's consent agenda, which includes the approval of tonight's agenda as well as the approval of the minutes of the November 5th, 2025 meeting. Do I have a motion? Corin, do I have a second?
Seconded.
Adam, all those in favor? Motion carries. So we are going to start tonight with our new addition to our regular meeting agenda with recognitions. And I would like to invite Mike Davis to come up.
And we'll also invite Christine Sampson to come up as well.
And you. All right, thank you. And how exciting is it to have this great new addition to your agenda? And we get to start off with a Sherwood Heights superstar. So if you have been reading the Sun Journal, you may already know this information, but it is my honor and privilege to publicly recognize Chris Sampson on being the recipient of the 2025 Maine Psychological Association Educator of the Year Award. She was nominated by a colleague who also is a social worker at our school and was recently honored at our school's assembly. Chris Sampson is a true Sherwood superstar. She goes above and beyond in her day-to-day work for each of her students in ensuring that their needs, both physically as well as socially and emotionally, are met so that they can be successful in the classroom. And she creates an incredible sense of community in her classroom. If you've ever had the chance, I know you've been there, Dr. Doris, ensuring that our students feel safe and comfortable and welcome, where they can take risks and learn to be successful. She models and teaches empathy. She uses a positive and growth-oriented feedback on her approach, focusing on effort and improvement and learning and supporting our students as they make mistakes and knowing that's okay. We all make mistakes and that's how we learn. She facilitates healthy peer interactions. She coaches our students on effective communication, respectful disagreements, and navigating the complexities of school friendships and relationships and dynamics. But above all, she truly understands sixth graders are all at various stages of development, which I think we'll learn more about the middle school concept later. But Chris truly understands the sixth graders. She gets to know her students, and how lucky are we to have her as a teacher at Sherwood being recognized for her work. Our school and our classrooms and our school is a better place because of Chris Sampson. So congratulations, Chris.
Thank you much.
This is like the epitome of my career. I strive to bring a sense of community to the classroom. That is the most important thing, and I find that once that's all in place, the learning just naturally occurs. I love the relationship with my kids, as well as with their families and their siblings. It's truly an honor. I love teaching. I was way back years ago with Dr. Doris at Fairview, and I love what I do, and receiving this, like, this is my why. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that great presentation, and thank you for all of your dedicated service to the Auburn School Department and to your students. I'm now going to open up for public comment. Do I have anyone here tonight who would like to address the school committee? Don't think so. So we are going to move on to our presentation tonight. Dr. Doris.
Tonight, we have an update on the Auburn Middle School project. So take it away, Mr. Neer, maybe a little bit of an introduction. And
Sure. We have continuously been working with our AMS Advisory Committee as well as our Facilities Subcommittee, and outside of those meetings, we've been engaged pretty heavily with Harriman, our architect and engineer of record, to continue the process of the scope of this project that you've granted us to move forward with as part of the master facility plan. So tonight's purpose is really to hear from Mark Lee to kind of update of where we stand in the work. Some things are getting tighter and more defined, and we're continuing to pursue some other areas that we need to certainly dial in and tighten up. And it's been a great partnership with them as they take the lead and kind of help support us in this process.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you for having us here to give you an important update on this effort. And so just a little bit of what we're going to cover here, just starting off with, again, a reflection on why this project, what's the reason to consider the AMS, the 6 through 8 middle school project. And then a little bit of what we've been working on. And so that is reflected in concept plans. And so those plans are what the proposed changes are to the middle school in its current layout and what's proposed. And then, and so that's really, the intent is to really nail down what is the work, the changes, the scope of the work that we are proposing to accommodate this potential change. And then ultimately, what that leads to is once we start to really understand what it is that we're doing, then we can assign a cost to it. So it's all leading to the idea of ultimately what is this and what is it going to cost, and then just look at where we are overall in the project timeline and next steps. So, and then if you have any questions or answers. So again, back to sort of the overarching goal of this, it fits in with the full context of the facilities master plan for the schools, and that it really looks at a number of important foundational pillars, including educational equity in terms of how do we provide the same educational opportunities for all of our students. How do we, importantly, be economically responsible with the facilities that you do have and taxpayer resources? Thinking about sustainability and importance of that in everything we do. Safety and security, so a lot of our schools were designed in a different age, and so a lot of them, our best practices regarding safety and security procedures and facility improvements have changed in that time frame, so it's looking at that. And then supporting what we know about learning right now, which has changed over the years as well. So all of that is sort of the basis of thinking about the middle school project here. And this I'd like to say is sort of the Principal Ben's area, but I'll do the best I can with the advantages of a 6 through 8 model as opposed to the 7-8 that you have now. And we're seeing most middle schools are 6 through 8, and that's because of the developmental similarities of that age group. Really, we're seeing more alignment with where sixth graders are and their overall cognitive and physical development with the 7/8 cohort as opposed to an elementary cohort. So that's an important consideration. One of the things that we see also, there's an alignment with oftentimes athletic opportunities, and so a lot of schools most of their athletic programs are built around 6 through 8, and so it's a lot easier when the sixth graders are part of that. And importantly, the transition from elementary school to middle school is a big one, and starting that process earlier makes it a smoother process. Right now, it's been identified that there's some time that sort of is spent in that adjustment in the 7th grade right now in Auburn that we can convert into more learning time if that transition happens a little sooner in the 6th grade. So there's a lot of strong research around the developmental opportunities and appropriateness of including sixth grade as part of a middle school model. So that's sort of a little bit of why we think moving the sixth grade to the middle school makes a lot of sense. And so what does that mean for the current facility and some of the changes to accommodate that? And so you can see a lot of lines on the screen here, but I'll try to do the best I can to describe it in a way that's understandable. So for those who are familiar with the middle school, it's a laid out and sort of the classroom area along an axis, so that kind of is represented in the middle of the plan here. It's a corridor that runs. Entrance is at the middle of this page, and we have two wings colored in the blue and the light blue on the right-hand side, and then when the middle school was constructed, we had an industrial arts wing, or unified arts wing, on the left-hand side, but the construction of the building was really similar. You can see that it's almost a mirror image around the middle of the building. So the idea is that how can we accommodate some less utilized space in the on the left-hand side of the building to accommodate the sixth grade. And so we've looked at creating almost the same layout that we have in the rest of the teaming structure throughout the middle school to accommodate the sixth grade. That does require us to add a small addition. So there's a little tiny component on this lower level that is an expansion, and we'll show that in more detail in a minute here. But that's on the first level. The big some new classrooms that are created, some new science rooms that are created in that teaming structure, and then displacement of those spaces that are being used in that area to other locations in the building, and we'll see that. Importantly, we talked about the idea that safety and security has changed over the years. So you'll see that right now the entrance to the middle school is there's a left-hand a series of 3 doors and a right-hand, and then the center stairs in the middle. So what is shown on here also is a small addition on the right-hand pair entrance doors to create a security vestibule. So as people are admitted into the vestibule, there's a safe window that someone from the administration area can have eyes on them to vet that they should be there, and then to further admit them into the school. So similar to some of the newer facilities, certainly if you've been to the high school, you'll see that security vestibule as well. And then moving to the upper level, we have also a small addition above the single classroom that we added on the lower level. So on the second level, we've added 2 classrooms, and those are right below the circle with the A in it. And then there's some modifications throughout the rest of the second floor plan that we'll discuss in some detail here. So we're going to go back down to that first level on the left-hand side of the building where we're really creating these new teams for the sixth grade. And so that's identified with heavy renovation, because we're going to go in there, we're going to essentially remove a lot of what's there and then build them up with a classroom configuration. And that includes, again, the classrooms for social studies and English and math, but also the science classrooms. In addition to that, we're displacing the STEM room, so you'll see where the circle and the B is in the center of upper, on this one it's kind of on the upper right side, but that's creating a new corridor and renovating space to become the STEM room right there. Additionally, you also see the secure vestibule with a C on that as well. So that's sort of a big part of a lot of the work that's being done to accommodate the sixth grade on that first level. Over on the right-hand side, in the existing area of the classrooms, mostly this is right now 7th grade teams, but we've got waterproofing that has to happen. So as I think most of you are aware, that portion of the building backs up into the earth, and so there's been some leaking over the years, and so it's really excavating that area out and providing some waterproofing to protect that edge of the building and prevent the water from coming in through that foundation wall. Also, a lot of the toilet rooms were done before current ADA standards were in place, and so this looks at addressing some of the deficiencies with some of the dimensional requirements for ADA in the toilet rooms, as well as giving them a refresher. I think they probably Haven't seen much of a alteration since the days when it was constructed, and as I said earlier, the days that I went there way back when. So on the second level now, we're going back to the left-hand side of the plan, where I talked about the 2 classroom addition over on the side of the building. That's marked with that A in the circle. And so that's a fairly modest 2-room addition onto that to add more classrooms. And then the multi-user toilet renovation, so that occurs here as well. Same scope as we just talked about on the previous slide. And then on the right-hand side, the toilet room renovations again. So that happens in three locations that we're doing those multi-user toilet room renovations. So, and then as we look at the rear, I'll call it the rear of the building, but we're back up on the second level now, and beyond the cafeteria and the gym. Right now, we're going to look at converting the area that's the shower part of the locker rooms to become the art room. And so we're going to add windows and add a kiln room and a storage room. And so that area that's labeled with the art, that becomes our new art room. We're also renovating the suite of special education offices that happens in the area where the B is identified. And that also creates a shared conference space that it can be used for special ed, as well as being used for the other areas of the school program. And then the music room, we're going to take that, right now there's a movable partition that we're going to create a permanent partition for acoustic separation from the theater, and add sound panels and an acoustic door. And so we'll create the music room at that location that's identified with the B as well. And then some renovations to the kitchen, creating a new update to the servery. So we're accommodating more students in the lunch periods, and so really thinking about how do we create more efficiency and a better flow in the serving area, and then updates to the kitchen area as well, new hoods to capture exhaust, and also a new cooler and freezer panel that's identified, all of that over in the area with the D. So that is sort of a overview, if you will, of the major scope items that we're undertaking as part of this. And that's what we're using now to build an idea of how much is this going to cost. But this has been really the majority of the effort to this point, is really identifying the scope and how do we best accommodate all these in the most efficient way, and taking advantage of the layout of the existing building with modest additions to it. Just giving you a sense of where we are in this process. And so this began in earnest this past summer. And so our effort right now is in this, what we call our schematic design. So that's largely the scope that I've shown you, but we go into enough detail to provide a cost estimator with the information for them to put real costs to this. And so as we continue to evolve the design and get more and more detailed, the cost gets refined and more realistic every time we go forward with that. So and we're now just about the point of being able to start building this cost for all those scope items that I just identified. That happens in enough time for us to get an understanding of that, and thinking about a June funding cycle, so that if we'll wrap up our work in February, March, and then we'll hand it off to the folks to look at after we know how much it's going to cost. Then it's a matter of how do we find the funding for that, and then, but the design isn't done. We still have a more detailed design to do, so we actually have to convert everything that I've shown you into biddable documents for a contractor to build from, and that takes some time to develop those. And so we're showing 9 months to develop this phasing plan, because we got to think about how much we can get work done in the summer and how much work gets done while the building is occupied. And so creating swing space, moving functions in the building to be able to accommodate some amount of work. So we're right now contemplating 16-month construction, but we still have to, again, develop bid document to get ready for a contractor to bid on. It's anticipated that those bid documents would be in the spring of 27, with construction commencing later in the spring towards the start of the summer. And if it were to go forward from there, we're looking at a completion for the start of the 2028 school year. This is the schedule that of meetings that we've been having. So that every one of these dots represents a meeting, and so we've had 2 community forums to really provide some opportunity to share the ideas and get input from the public on. And so right now we're in the November. We had an advisory meeting. Our monthly advisory meeting was right before here. Then the school committee meeting, and in the month of December we have another advisory board meeting, and then getting further into the development as we turn the calendar year into January, and then wrapping up our study in and around the February timeframe. And so just thinking about what the next steps are for us. And so in addition to developing the scope to get ready for the cost estimate, we're also working, some of the feedback we've heard, and maybe you have too, are some traffic concerns at Court Street and the entrance to AMS. And so we're looking at that not only with the city, but also in AvCog and regional planning to understand how can we address some of those concerns. There's a component of the site that has a National Park Service grant, and so looking at how do we work with them to understand any potential impacts of this work on easements and recreation easements that are in place. As I said, continue to define and refine the scope of the project. We've got a little bit more work to do in designing that serving area that I talked about in the kitchen or the cafeteria area. And then looking forward to the estimate for review and approval. And so with that, if there are any questions, I'm glad to answer any.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation and that update. I know that costing is one of the next things. You just mentioned that. I guess my question was on average square foot per student. I don't know if that's a metric that is used in development of educational buildings, but I was just curious how this development and the addition of students, how does that affect the average square footage? I would imagine classroom-wise, we're probably accounting for it. Obviously, things like the gym, that's a fixed size, so we're going to be adding some percentage of students to these areas. I just wonder if you could speak to that.
I'll just, it's easy to compare cost per student for new construction because we're starting from sort of the same. So if I were to compare a new school here and a new school here, I can look at cost per student in a relative apples to apples comparison. Although even that, there's not really an apples because every school is unique, every program is unique, but you get roughly an understanding of that. Renovations are very different. They depend on so many different variables, and so there's no sort of I can't say, well, there's this cost per square foot or per student for a renovation, just because, again, what I can say is that this accommodates the sixth grade in an extremely efficient way, and if we look at the relative cost of this renovation compared with a lot of others for accommodating this degree of the number of students, essentially expanding by 50%, accommodating them with that modest addition. But yes, there's a lot of renovation, but it's one of the most efficient solutions that I think we've undertaken in a project like this.
So I would imagine at some point in the future when we do have a cost on it, we'll be able to see the additional dollars per additional student at the middle school, compare it to say dollars per student at the high school.
Absolutely.
And that number, the high school number, should be far larger than the middle school number.
Absolutely. And we can give you some comparisons when we start seeing those costs. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay, moving on. School committee student representatives report. Calvin.
Good evening, everyone. With the holiday season quickly approaching, I wanted to share with you all a report on the almost 3 months that we've almost been in school now. Beginning in the fall sports and their postseason successes. Boys soccer finished as the 4th seed in the Class A North and lost in the North semifinal match against Camden Hills. And the boys cross country team qualified for states as a team for the first time in 15 years. And myself and Harper Borden were both New England qualifiers. We went to Vermont 2 Saturdays ago. And moving on to the winter sports, which they began Monday for most sports, including indoor track, basketball, and boys hockey. Girls hockey started a couple weeks earlier, and then swimming and skiing both start in a couple weeks. Moving on to other news around Edward Little, the ELHS drama department is performing The Little Mermaid this weekend. They have shows Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, and Saturday and Sunday afternoon in the Donald M. Gay Performing Arts Center. I believe tickets are sold at the door, but I've heard that they're selling out fast, so you might want to buy them in advance. The math team in their most recent meet placed second at Freiburg Academy earlier this month. And then moving on to the Student Leadership Council, they are currently hosting a food drive competition across the homerooms at Edward Little. The winning homeroom each receives a $5 Roma Joe's gift card to increase participation. As well, the Student Leadership Council is also planning for events such as Teacher Appreciation Week that is coming up, I believe, shortly after Christmas break, I believe. I could be wrong with that date. The National Honor Society recently hosted their blood drive last month, as well as their induction ceremony for their new members. The chapter is also hosting Kitty Night on December 12th from 5 to 8. That is a Friday. And parents can drop off their kids for $5 for the total time and can spend their night by themselves, having really cheap babysitters if anyone wants to participate. And then finally, the ELHS homecoming took place in the middle of last month. The school-wide rally at the end of the week saw the sophomores win the competition and the seniors crowned with the best skit. It was concluded with the annual homecoming dance that Saturday night. And then, I guess I have 2 finalists, but I would like to conclude tonight with an update on my countdown calendar. There are 4 days before Thanksgiving break. 4 school days, 19 school days before Christmas break, and 93 school days until the 2026 graduation. But I am certainly not counting. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin. Congratulations on your regionals qualifying, and also Calvin was selected to be the NHS president as well. So congratulations on that. Okay, let's see. Oops. Moving on to our superintendent's report, Dr. Doris.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Albert. I have one item on my report tonight, and it is an overview of the FY27 budget. And here's our slides, so those are up. And we'll go on to the next one. So we're going to review the budget development process and timeline and take a look at our projected increases and decreases. And that will include a look at expenditures and revenues. And then we'll talk about some items to discuss. So we'll move along, and the budget process is really talking about the budget process right now for you as a school committee. On the other side of this, we've already started working on our budgets and developing our budgets, but this is what your timeline and calendar will look like. So tonight, we're going to give you an overview and a little bit of a forecast for the FY27 budget. And then in January, we will have a joint workshop with the City Council, and we'll talk about some preliminary budget numbers at that time. And then March is a big month for us. We have meetings every Wednesday, and we will be going through our budget books and the different cost centers. So we always start off at our first meeting with a review of the budget book, and then we get into cost center 1. And then the next meeting, second Wednesday in March, will be cost centers 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then moving along, third Wednesday in March will be cost center 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and also reviewing our CIP. And then the last Wednesday in March will be Cost Center 11, which is adult ed, looking at our revenue, and then anything else we might need to include because we might have a snow day on one of those Wednesdays. So if we move along to April, we have our public hearing on the budget, April 1st, and then that will be followed by a joint school committee city council budget workshop. And then April 15th, school committee approval of the budget. And May 4th will be city council approval of the budget. And June 9th is our budget validation referendum. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Scoocher, and she's going to take it from here.
Thank you, Dr. Doris. The only bargaining unit we are negotiating with this year is the school nutrition unit, which is actually not part of our general fund, so we don't have to have, generally we would put aside in our budget for FY27 some funds that we can work with while we're negotiating during the budget season, but we don't have to do that this year, so pretty short slide. All right, so the first bargaining unit that we've costed out is the administrator's salaries. We have 16 staff members under this contract. We're currently in the second year of the contract, so FY27 will be year 3, and we should see approximately an $80,000 increase in those salaries. And do know this is very much a bird's eye view down. We have lots of checks and balances that we do before March when we bring you the official numbers. The teachers bargaining unit, they're currently in their first year, and so FY27 will be year 2. We have approximately 310 teachers in this unit, and we expect just under $1 million increase from this current budget year to FY27. Ed techs and administrative assistants, that includes just over 100 people, and we expect about a $300,000 increase in the salaries for those staff members. And then drivers and bus aides, just under 40 staff members or positions that are budgeted there, and we expect about a $100,000 increase for those salaries. Health insurance is always a fun topic. We have received our loss ratios for the 2025 first 9 months of the year is how it's presented to us. And we had a slight decrease from last year's loss ratio. So we're going to look at budgeting 12% at this time. So that would look like just under $900,000 increase from this year. This, of course, is general fund health insurance only, general fund salaries only. We do have some teachers and other staff members who are paid with federal funding, but that's not to be included when we go through this. And we will get our actual rate increase, as always, in April. It says 27, but I meant for that to say 26. I apologize. We don't have to wait an additional year for that. All right, so we do have our audit results for FY24. We are currently working diligently to complete our FY25 audit, and those results should show us basically a healthy fund balance, and we will be discussing later on this fiscal year in FY26 how to be spending down those funds, because as you know, in FY24 we were above the 9% in LD 1198. So we're discussing the idea of the capital reserve funds that we currently have, along with perhaps a new capital reserve fund. And then, of course, we generally put some of our fund balance, it's considered carryover, into next year's budget for revenue. So we can continue to do that for FY27. I would expect it to look pretty similar to FY26's number. We continue to invoice for Maine Care and other special services like transportation, and we're looking at invoicing for specialty staff as well. Laura Shaw, our special services director, has gone through a lot of training and a lot of work to get things going on all of that. And then, of course, looking at our enrollment increase, we do expect the state subsidy to go up once again. Our debt service schedule has changed a lot over the last few years. We see Park Avenue dropping off of our local share completely beginning next year. This year we are only in our local share paying $33,636, but that is a savings. And of course, the high school bond is always decreasing. As we pay it off, the interest amounts go down. So between those two bonds, we see about a $60,000 decrease, and our capital improvement project bond just went up by $3,000, and that is because of our FY25 and 26 bonds. The bonds that are aging out were just a little bit smaller than the bonds that we got in 25 and 26. You see just a very slight increase. But overall, we should see about a $57,000 decrease in that debt service. And then we have some items for consideration. Earlier this evening, you heard from Mr. Lee from Harriman to discuss the middle school renovation potential. We do have capital improvement needs that are coming up from Public Works when they're needed. So we are day to day working with Public Works and keeping that conversation going and making sure we have the funding to keep our schools in good shape and take care of those immediate needs. We are working on putting together a multi-year plan using the facilities study that Harriman did to look at those capital improvement needs over the next maybe 5+ years, and that'll go forward with the facilities committee once we have that together. And then, of course, should we renovate the middle school, move the 6th grade there, there's always the discussion of reconfiguring our elementary schools. So these are just conversations that are going on that we should keep in mind as we're planning ahead. Sorry. And then other fixed costs, we have staff have begun reaching out to vendors that we contract with so that we can determine what our increases will be for FY27 for those. We work with our energy services to always try to bid as low as possible for utilities, and we've begun bidding on that. Repair and maintenance, we'll work with Public Works to determine if we need to increase those and looking at the different school costs and such. Debt service is pretty concrete, that dollar amount, but of course, if we do decide to take out capital improvement bonds in FY27, that would have an impact in future years after that. And then there's still conversation going on about stipend contracts under the teacher bargaining unit. And we kept this slide in here. It's kind of a repeat from the last year, but the city Public Works does maintain the budget for the school department when it comes to maintenance and cleaning and custodial work and such. So that is a topic we've begun to discuss with the Public Works director, and we're going to be meeting next month to really dig into that one. We still budget our debt service for capital improvement bonds, our property insurance, school board liability insurance, and technology repairs in that article, that cost center. But all of the fluctuating dollar amounts really come from Public Works there. And now we'll open the floor for any questions or comments.
Anyone have any questions? I don't think I have questions yet. I'm sure there will be many in the months to come. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do not have a chairperson's report this evening. Adam, a city council update.
Yes, thank you. 2 updates. The first is just a regurgitation of an announcement from Councilor Leroy Walker on Monday of the Auburn Age Friendly Committee Thanksgiving dinner that is held at Pettingill Park at the senior center there. I believe it starts at 12 o'clock noon, but for anyone who's interested, you can check in with the Auburn Rec Department or on the city website. But it's just a Thanksgiving. It's free, but not free. Donations encouraged, but if you can't make a donation, that's okay. And it's intended for anybody who's just looking for a group of community to commune with on Thanksgiving who may not have a place to go. So it's a great event. I think usually they get 100+ people there. So for anyone listening who's looking for something to do on Thanksgiving, they would love to have you there. And I'll be there hauling trash bags. My second announcement is just a quick update, a budgetary item on the city side on Monday. We had one of the final planning presentations of the new Auburn Public Safety Building. As you'll all recall, this is a building that was, the concept was approved by referendum by the taxpayers and the voters of Auburn. This is a building, it was approved up to $45 million in cost. And this is a building that will house the future police, not the future police department, a future home for the current police department, as well as the fire department. And for both of those departments, it's certainly well overdue. For anyone who recalls, the police department was moved into here, this building. It was supposed to be, I believe, a 5-year temporary solution, and it's been 2 decades, something like that. So anyway, that's the genesis of how this became. We were presented with the preliminary plans yesterday. The price tag right now comes in at $42-point-something million. I won't get into if anybody has questions about the building, I'm happy to answer them. I think they're up on the website, or at least in the agenda from last night's meeting. What I want to say, the reason I'm bringing it up here, this financial decision, this financial piece that the city's working on will be one of the largest budget drivers on the city side. The debt service that will result from bonding this out will affect the entire city budget for the next decade plus. I say that as we are coming up with our budget, as we are deciding what battles to fight and what soapboxes to stand on, that is what we're up against. It's something, in my opinion, the city desperately needs, but with just like the high school, with an 8-digit expenditure, there are decisions that'll have to be made, and there will be competing interests financially that'll have to play out. So we all need to be aware of that, and I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Adam. Any questions for Adam? Okay. Moving on to our committee reports, the agenda and the minutes for the Finance Subcommittee from November 12th are linked. I think the items on the Finance Subcommittee, though, are coming up in new business, so we can wait for that. The Policy Subcommittee just met last night. That agenda is linked. The Curriculum Subcommittee agenda and minutes from the meeting on the 5th are linked. Corin, do you have any? I think you summarized at the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Health and Safety Subcommittee met on the 13th. Dr. Doris, do you mind giving a quick summary update of the Health and Safety Committee?
I think I'll turn that over to Mr. Anir.
Okay.
Awesome. No, we went through our typical agenda, and just I think the pieces that we really wanted to highlight is the continued need for social emotional support in our schools is continuing to be there. We also, it was kind of a continuation, the carryover of a discussion from the policy subcommittee around Narcan and the discussion of CPR and what that would look like. And we had Jennifer Edwards from the city that participated with us and provided some updates on some possible opportunities for training around CPR or Narcan for anybody that was interested in doing it. And then we had some light discussion on our Alice drill leading into tomorrow's ASDIRT meeting, where we will do a debrief with the Auburn Police Department. So that was kind of the essence of the Health and Safety Committee.
Okay, great, thank you. I think it had been a while since the Health and Safety Committee had met, so. And then the minutes of the Facilities Subcommittee meeting from the 4th are also linked, and the AMS Advisory Committee agenda from tonight's was actually tonight's meeting, is also linked. Okay, moving on to old business. I will entertain a motion to approve AUB JICJ student use of cell phones and other electronic devices for a second reading and approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Pat, do I have a second? Corin? Any questions, discussion on this policy around cell phones? I know we talked quite a bit about it at the last meeting, and Scott gave a good update on how it's going. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of approving AUB JICJ student use of cell phones and other electronic devices? Motion carries. Moving on to new business, I'll entertain a motion to approve the use of $34,000 for LRTC from the school department's excess fund balance to fund contracted services needed in order to complete the spray booth for the auto body program. Do I have a motion? Corin, do I have a second? Pat? Amanda, do you mind giving us a summary of this?
Thank you. There are 3 contracted services that the Auburn School Department would take on that are still needed in order for the spray booth to be completely installed. The spray booth was installed earlier this school year using the high school bond, but we are kind of at the point where we need to stop expecting those funds to be available. And so we're looking for a fire suppression system to be installed. We have roof work that needs to be done in order for the exhaust from the spray booth to go up through the roof, and then installation of natural gas. There are other services that need to be taken care of, but the folks at LRTC have taken that piece on so that we're kind of splitting the cost as much as we can down the middle. So the 3 services that I've just outlined for you here are a total of approximately $34,000 as far as the quotes have been given.
And now remind me, I know we discussed this at the Finance Committee, but part of the cost of this was being shared by LRTC, is that correct?
Yeah, the 3 contracted services that I'm naming would be fully paid for by the Auburn School Department, but there's, oh goodness, I don't know if Mr. Anir can help me remember what items.
Electrical and insulation, and there's one more where they were going to take care of that part of the installation and the cost that went was electrical.
Electrical supplies, mixing station, insulation supplies, and
Mixing
controls.
station, yes. And so they were looking at over $20,000 in costs that they were taking care of there. So we're on the little higher side than that, but still within reason.
Mm-hmm.
Is it fair to say that we are focusing on the costs that are leaseholder improvements, not leaseholder, we're not renting, but capital improvements to our own building, and they're focusing on costs
Yes.
that are more operational for the program that they'll be
Exactly.
teaching in our
Thank
facility.
you.
Yeah. Anyone have any questions about this?
I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
How come that wasn't in the budget for the new school?
That's a great question, Dan. So when you go back in time and when the building was developed and what the programs were going to be in those spaces, at that time, the composite manufacturing around automotives wasn't part of it, and it changed and morphed. Originally, it was going to be composite manufacturing, and then in their advisory group and lead up to that, it changed from that focus towards automotive, and that's what led to, if we're going to be doing automotive composites, then we need to do the spray booth, which is why it was never included in the original. Does that answer it?
And so these funds, this $34,000 would come out of the excess fund balance, which Amanda just alluded to in the budget presentation about we have to spend down because we are currently over what we are allowed to carry as an excess fund balance. So that's where these funds would come from.
Again, I guess a quick add-on to that, I guess for starters, so everyone can wrap their heads around it, not including the fund balance numbers that we're waiting to hear on from our 2025 audit. As of the end of 2024, we had roughly, was it $1 million? Was that, what?
$5.9 million for our fund
Sorry, what's the
balance.
excess?
Oh, the excess, 10%. About 600,000.
Napkin math, 600,000. to date, we had 80 some odd thousand with our last fund balance release.
181,000.
181
last month.
What we're looking for here is another 70. So even with those two actions, we have moved about 250,000 of the 600 we know we have to move. Now there might be additional fund balance when we get back this next audit, the 2025 audit. But so we're still well within the amount of fund balance that needs to be, the excess fund balance, I should call it. One thing, I guess the piece I wanted to add is I have asked Amanda moving forward that when we get these requests to spend excess fund balance, I would like to know year to date what I just told you, that we're at 250,000. I want to know how much we've moved over. Furthermore, I'd love to see a list of prioritized items that, you know, when we release excess fund balance, we're not just going out and buying 2,000 pop-up tents. You know, those aren't in our budget. We don't need those. That's not where we should be spending this money. It should be spent on things that we were going to spend money on anyway. Yeah. So I think there was consensus in our committee meeting about that, but that's something I'd like to keep pushing on and hammering on. So the next time we're here talking about excess fund balance, we'll have it in the context of here's what we've not spent, here's what we've moved of excess fund balance, here's how much more we know we have to move based on the numbers we know now, et cetera. So I do support this. I think this is responsible. It's well within that range of monies that need to be moved over. I think it's worth saying that this booth is inactive right now. It's something that was partially paid for in the bonding process, but because it wasn't fully paid for, it's just wasting away. So, and I will also say this is, you know, vocational education, which I think it seems we've been spending a bit of money on this in the last couple of years, and I think it's a great area to continue to focus on. So.
Absolutely. It's also something that allows expansion within the curriculum of what's being taught in that program. So, Dan.
What's the penalty for having too much excessive reserve fund?
It really is just a report on our audit. We are not having any issues with the Department of Education. It really is just, we have usually 3 years to formulate a plan or spend that down. So.
And what if you don't?
I'll get back to you. I'm not sure. I'm pretty confident we will. I think we'll be all right.
Pat.
Following up on that, you said they had 3 years to spend the excess from 2024. Starting now, or has it already?
Well, the audit was officially completed a few months ago, so it really, I believe it begins with that audit has officially been provided to the state. One thing that I did mention in our budget slideshow is that our capital reserve funds are not included in that 9%. So if we simply shift funds into a designated capital reserve account, then we've already, without actually spending those funds, we've already designated it, so it's not considered unassigned anymore, and it doesn't work towards that LD 1198. It would actually help us also, so we're not asking for excess funds or capital improvement bonds. You know, we've got those funds available where it would go through finance and you folks, and then we would be all set to use those funds as we find it needed. So.
And that's something we've talked about discussing at our upcoming finance committee meetings. Any other questions or discussion on this motion before we vote? Okay. All those in favor of approving the use of $34,000 for LRTC from the school department's excess fund balance to fund contracted services to complete the spray booth for the auto body program? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve the use of $88,271.75 for capital needs from the school department's excess fund balance to fund immediate needs regarding capital improvements and unbudgeted facilities maintenance projects. Do I have a motion?
Correction. Are you reading the finance committee agenda?
Oh, I am. Sorry.
I think there's a different.
Sorry. You're right. Yep. I did have that agenda open. Thank you. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the use of much less money, $32,299 for capital needs from the school department's excess fund balance to fund immediate needs regarding capital improvements and unbudgeted facilities maintenance projects. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Adam, do I have a second? Corin. Questions, discussion, Amanda?
Yes, the first item on this list, it's only 2 items. One came from Public Works. We have 2 of our 3 lawnmowers that we use for our different campuses are aging out, and so we're looking to replace one of those, and that's approximately a $15,000 quote. And then the second item is the Donald M. Gay stage floor, which Lily Gardner did speak about 2 weeks ago right here in our school committee meeting. It requires some sanding, priming, and painting. And that's actually all that's left on that list. So.
Questions, discussion about this one? Adam?
And I would just make a comment for those watching and listening. The first number that the chair mentioned of 85,000 is actually where this request started. So the resulting number of 32,299 is what we came to. There were several items that were asked for, requested, that we felt the timing wasn't appropriate, just so everybody understands that.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other discussion, questions about this request? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the use of $32,299 for capital needs from the school department's excess fund balance to fund capital improvements and unbudgeted facilities maintenance projects? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. We have our upcoming meetings listed on the agenda. The next regular school committee meeting is December 3rd, which will be the last regular meeting of this current committee. Do I have any future agenda items or requests for information? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Corin, second. Adam, all those in favor? And we are adjourned at 7:03. Thank you, everyone. Good night.